Casper. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hanging out in the water with Casper here, and we want to talk to you guys about a question people were asking: is what do gators do during storms, and specifically hurricanes, and how do those affect them, right? And just want to throw this out too before we get into it. My little commercial part too, guys. Remember, you can always come do a tour with me and Casper. We do offer tours. You can get in the water with me and Casper. You're behind a safety fence. You can see behind me right there. And we're here at Everglades Outpost in Homestead, Florida, where we run the tour. And all the info and booking and whatnot is on the website, crocodilechris.com. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. Casper, come here. We'll call him back over here so we can talk about it with him. Come here. But yeah, so what do they do during storms and inclement weather and hurricanes, and how does this affect them, and all this other kind of fun stuff, right? So obviously it's going to depend on the severity of the storm. Like if we have a category 5, obviously that's going to do some damage and affect them, and it's going to affect everything. But for more like normal hurricanes that are like a tropical storm, or maybe a cat 1 or 2, it really doesn't seem to affect them very much. And all they really usually do is they just go underwater and they hold their breath. Okay, I'm holding his hands right now, actually, just to see if we'll get him to hang out with us here. You gonna hang out? Be cool? You're gonna leave. So you guys don't have any food. I'm out of here. But yeah, I'm ready to eat that. No? He's got to leave in his mouth right now, actually. But yeah, so what they typically do is if you have a heavy-duty storm with a lot of wind, or even if it's not rain, if it's just wind, they don't really like the wind. And so even on windy days when it's nice and clear and sunny, if there's a lot of wind, what it does is it causes that chop in the water, and that chop is just repeatedly hitting them right in the eyes and the ear. And it's annoying to them. And so you'll see on choppy, windy days, the gators typically just go underwater and they just hang out in the water. Or they'll go into an area where it's kind of more protected from the wind. They'll try to avoid that like chop in the water. They don't seem to like that. And I've definitely noticed that a few times in the wild when we're looking at wild gators. So add in the rain and whatnot too, what they will typically do is just go underneath the water. And this is where they're going to hold their breath for that whole, 6 hours or more span. You can check out my other video I did specifically talking about the breath hold and how long they can hold their breath. So it's during inclement weather like that, rain, wind, or really cold temperatures as well, where they're going to sink underneath the water, and they're just going to kind of wait out the storm. And that's where they might hold their breath for that 6 hours or more, and then when they're ready, they'll come up, bear through it, breathe up a little bit, then go back underneath the water, because all of that activity is really just affecting on the surface for the most part. Now, when you're out in the ocean, that's where you get those massive waves and whatnot, but in the inland areas where gators are usually at in the freshwater, it's just a lot of chop on the water. It's not that bad. Now, where it gets bad, though, is where you have things like storm surge, or if you have huge waves coming in with the storm surge, or if it's something like, again, a category 5. That's where it's absolutely going to impact everything. Now, for the gators, though, as far as I know, they really do survive through most of that pretty much okay. The storm surge can definitely catch them up, though, when it's tearing through and pushing through. It can sometimes animals can drown. I've never personally seen that. I've heard people say that, especially if the storm surge is pushing a lot and gets them caught against trees, and then the water flow is so strong, a smaller alligator can't get away from it, and then they get drowned like that. So that could happen. Casper, come here. We'll get him back over here so it's not just me sitting here talking. Come here, buddy. So you see him making his way. Come on. There you go. I got George helping me out on camera today too. Thank you. Shout out to George there. But yeah, let's get him back over here so we can talk with him. But yeah, so in the wild, that's the one that they really worry about the most, is going to be like that storm surge pushing in so hard and so much current that it could drown them. And then also washing them out to sea. So when you have a really powerful hurricane like that, it can also, like the storm surge can come in and push them out to sea, depending on where the animal's located, and then they can be pushed out into the ocean. And so that can definitely happen too with all kinds of animals. With these guys, again, as long as they don't drown in that, they'll eventually make their way back to the freshwater if they were blown out to sea by it. They can survive in the salt water. People always think that gators can't handle salt water. I always say it's just like us. They can handle salt water for a few days. They can't drink it, so they won't live in it. But if he got thrown out in the ocean, if he can find his way back within about a week or so, he'll survive, because they just can't drink the salt water. They do have to have fresh water to drink, and they'll survive maybe a couple days to a week without fresh water. So that's one of the things right there. Now, in the captive situation, what do we do about hurricanes? Usually, again, nothing. We don't really have to do anything unless it's one of these like catastrophic category 5s. And if that's the case, we do have a disaster plan that we do have to file with Fish and Wildlife for being able to move the alligators to a different facility if that were to happen. Now, when you have a lot of alligators, I don't know. Like if you looked at like Zoo Miami when Hurricane Andrew hit, and that's when only in best situations, like they had to buckle down, you know. Even when you have these plans, when a real category 5 hits and you have hundreds or thousands of animals at a facility, like it's chaos. You know, they're not really that well equipped to handle something like that. So that does become totally chaotic. Now in captivity, what we have to worry about with crocodilians though, usually they just go underwater. It's just more rain, more water. But where you have the concern is if the water levels raise enough that they can swim over the fences. And that is something I didn't see happen, but I saw the aftermath of it when I was in Mississippi. We were at a Gulf Coast Gator Ranch and we were talking to them, and they said Hurricane Katrina flooded so much that the water went above their 8-foot fences and the gators just swam out over the fence. That's how bad the flooding was. Now in that case though, that's just gators at a place where gators already exist. It's not ideal, but it's, you know, releasing an animal that is already native to the area. Where you would be more worried about that is if you had crocodiles and then they swam out over it into an area where they're not supposed to be, and they could become, you know, possibly invasive or anything like that. And I don't know of that happening. I don't know of that happening anywhere as to my knowledge. The only thing I know of is the water levels rising enough where gators got out, where gators already existed. But I could see that definitely being a big concern with crocodiles getting out in an area where they're not supposed to be, if they're like Nile crocs and let's say in Florida or something like that. So that is a concern you would have with a big storm like that. Also other concerns as far as in a captive situation goes, tree falls, like this giant tree right here. I imagine that thing falling down. I would be very concerned of a giant branch hitting Casper and obviously crushing him or something. Now, hopefully in a big storm like that, he's underwater sitting in the bottom, and he'll go to the deepest point, which in this pond is about 8 feet deep. One of these branches hits, probably would not impact him that deep, you know, or at least it'll be slowed down enough by the water crashing through. But you also have the concern of big branches falling down on the fences and again releasing non-native animals too. So that's why if you do have a catastrophic hurricane coming, you are supposed to evacuate your animals out, and you have this evacuation plan for catastrophic hurricanes, things like that, right? I guess another storm aspect would be tornadoes. Same kind of idea. They'll go underwater, and really the water is enough of a buffer and a barrier that if they get down on the bottom, it protects them from pretty much everything. Like even a tornado is if you're 8 feet deep underwater, he's going to be fine, you know. Now if they were on the surface and it was shallow water or something like that, yeah, I could see them launching out, you know. I've never heard of that happening, but obviously it stands within reason that that could happen, you know, and it could, you know, have a little Kansas situation for you. Casper, come here, buddy. Come here. It's so funny that whenever I'm doing these, he's like used to me doing YouTube videos now. And so he'll come when I call him, obviously, and he's going to come over. He knows his name, comes in his call. Oh, come over. He'll cruise over. And then he's like, sits for like a minute, and he's like, all right, you're not feeding me. And I can tell by, like, I get into like my tone of when I start talking a lot that he's like, you're not going to feed me. You just called me over to talk, and you're not actually going to give me any food. Hi, buddy. We should actually give him a treat though. Let me run over here real fast and grab one of his little treats. Come here, buddy. So this is one of his little gator chow biscuits. It's made out of ground up chicken and fish and bone. Nope, that's a leaf. That's not the food. That's not the food. Here. There you go. Here you go, big guy. Let's reward you, huh? I know. I sit here and I do these YouTube videos and we just talk and talk and talk, and he's like, this is boring, I'm leaving, and I'll go sit in the corner. Hi, buddy. There you go. But yeah, so I think that covers everything I can think of when it comes to like hurricanes and big storms and whatnot. If you guys have any questions, any comments on that sort of thing, let me know in the comments. And as always, guys, like, subscribe, share. I appreciate any support, and we'll see you guys on the next one.